Okay, welcome to our new semester with math at Southern California Online Academy. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Mrs. Wise, and I'm going to be going over a few things with you today about how the course works and some reminders and a couple changes of things that we are going to be looking at and dealing with. So let me switch screens here so we can go over everything we need to go over. So right now you should be seeing a screen that talks about math and the courses that this is for. I teach Algebra 1, Integrated Math, and Calculus, and this will cover most things for most everybody. There may be times when I talk about one course versus another course, so kind of pay attention to that because of the differences between some items in the coursework. Also, don't forget that you need to be taking notes on this. Usually we take notes in Cornell note style, which is kept in the document sharing portion of the course as a template. Excuse me. If you don't have that right now and that doesn't work really well for you right now, just go ahead and take regular notes this time and then find the template so you have that to use the next time. So this time and this time only, I will take notes in something other than Cornell note format, but please make sure that it's organized in a way that will help you remember things, and so I can check and see that you have included all the important ideas in this. If you do know how to take Cornell notes, I do expect them in that format, however. So let's move on. So like I said, welcome to a new semester. In this session, there's going to be two parts. The first session talks about our live session each week and then a tutorial and what's going to happen with that with the in-person schedule versus Ustream. We're not going to be doing Illuminates this semester, I'm sorry. We're going to be doing things live, and whether that's versus a live streaming or whether that's in person. And then we're also going to have tutorial sessions each week that we'll go over. Part 2 is talking about the curriculum, what's the typical day in math. I want to go over that with everybody because I know there's been some confusion about what people should be doing with the content in the coursework. Where the answer keys are, which is something you need to be doing, is checking your answers as you do your work so you know if you understand how to do the math or not. And then also talking about turning the Cornell notes with the answers to today's essential question into the Dropbox. And that has 10 points. I'm going to give 10 points automatically. I'm not going to score it on the rubric this time. There is a rubric, however, that it will be scored on in the future in order to receive the full 10 points. So here's today's essential question. It is worth, actually it should say 10 points, not 15 points. I didn't make that change, I apologize. So 10 points for today's essential question. What am I able to use as a sample of homework or sample of work to give to my homeroom teacher each Friday as proof of work from this class? When must I be at the school site in person? Those are the two questions. I'm going to give you a few seconds to write those down. So you have those to pay attention to and follow and look for the answers as we go through. Okay, if you didn't quite get that, this does get recorded, so you know, and you will receive a link to get to this recording, and you can go back and look at the recording again when we finish. and when it's uploaded. All right, there are basically three. I said 2 parts before, but there's really 3 parts to the online school of what we're doing now. One is a live weekly session per class. You either attend it in person or you attend via what's called Ustream. Then there's the online lessons with the curriculum and Cornell notes and assessments and so on. And then there's also tutorial sessions. Part 1 with the Ustream or in person. Again, 1 live math session each week. That, again, it can be either in person, which is required for if you're receiving a D or F in the class. So if you have a D or an F in the class, you are required to come in person each week. And once for that particular piece. Or if you have an A, B, or C, you may either attend in person if you so choose, or you can watch it via Ustream. And it'll be a live streamed session of the class that's going on at the time. The times listed below, if you're an Algebra 1 student, you're going to attend on Thursday, either 8 or 9, and I'll be getting you a list of what session you should attend. And that's going to be in room 304. And if you're in integrated math, you're going to be attending on Friday at 11 in room 304 if you have a D or an F, or if you choose to come in if you have an A, B, or C. And our calculus students, we're going to work on that, what's going to happen with that. We're going to do it just a little differently because of the number of students. And so I will be contacting you as to what we're going to be doing with that and what's going to work out best for you. All right. Ustream is a live streaming video channel. Students can still ask questions via text during the live sessions, like we did with the Elluminate, but it will be a video of your teacher instead of how we had a whiteboard screen with the PowerPoint. So you're actually going to have a video of what's happening in a lesson. So you'll see student work from other students. You will hear conversations between students and the teacher. There will be problems that you'll be asked to work on when you're watching, and you'll be expected to work on those problems and take notes. If you're doing the live streaming video, everybody's going to be expected to take notes. The people that are actually there will actually have extra help with getting the notes done and get their notes checked off right then and there before they walk out the door. But if you are watching versus the streaming video, then you will be expected to turn notes in also. So in those notes, you'll be expected to have not just the notes, but also the problems that we worked on to show that you were actually participating with the process. Okay, and then also, like I just said, you'll be expected to take Cornell notes. Everybody will be doing that. And the people in the class will be able to turn those in right away, and make sure you have extra help with those notes. And you will be expected to include the problems that we're working on and show the work for those problems so that we know that you've been participating. So how do you access that information? Well, these are samples of some of the places to access, where you're going to find that location to access things. I'm going to have to make a quick adjustment to one of these URLs, you'll find that information. We're in the highlighted place where it says Class Connect in the blue on the left-hand side, and you can see that piece like I said, in the blue on the left-hand side. And when you click on that, where it says Class Connect, this is what comes up. It'll share where it says Live Session Info. It gives you the date and time of those pieces, what room you're going to be in if you're coming in person, and then the link to the live session if you're watching it from home, if you have an A, B, or C in the class. Again, remember, I'm going to emphasize it again, if you have a D or an F in the class, you are required to come in person. Then access to past recorded sessions. So these sessions will be recorded. So if you are doing it from home and your grade is an A, B, or C, then then you will be able to access those recordings if you were not feeling well that day or something like that. Also, if you are one of the students that is attending in person and needs to go back and look at the lesson again and think about some of the things happening, you have that opportunity to do that as well by accessing those recorded sessions as well. And there's links to each of those items. Okay. The link to the recorded session is going to be on YouTube, so you'll be getting the link to that page and that channel, and you'll have to make sure you choose the correct playlist. So if you're an Algebra 1 student, you click and choose the Algebra 1 playlist and then find the appropriate recording for that week. So here's an example of what that might look like. There's this in terms of the playlists. So you make sure again that you choose the correct one. So as we go think about part 2, the other thing that did not get mentioned previously is that once a week you will be expected to attend tutorials if you have a D or an F, and those times will be in the future. Those will be another day. Actually, will probably be, that should be Tuesday would be a tutorial day for algebra, and Wednesday would be a tutorial day for the integrated math students. And those two session times will be forthcoming. If you have an A, B, or C, you can choose to come, but if you have a D or an F, you would be required to come to those sessions. All right, so your typical day in math, it's going to take you about 60 minutes. I know a lot of people think that that's a long time, but that's about the same time as you would be in a regular classroom for a math class. And so you're going to be approximately 60 minutes, give or take some time, depending upon you as a student and how much time you take to do things. But make sure as you go through, you start with each day by looking at the announcements, or actually each class by looking at the announcements to see what's assigned for each day. And if there's something, a special reminder that's come up about deadlines or due dates, things like that, this time around, this semester, I'm going to be a lot pickier about the due dates. So please be sure to pay attention to those. If something comes up, becomes an issue about those deadlines and due dates, please contact me before the deadline or due date. Don't contact me a couple days later. Then at that point, there's nothing I can do about it. All the units and tests are set right now to be locked on certain days. They're going to just lock automatically. I don't have to go through and do it because I've set the deadlines, and that's what we're going to be living with. So please make sure we take care of that. Next thing, make sure when you go to do the lesson, that you read the online lesson and take notes. Okay, these usually going to be about 15 to 20 slides for most lessons. And what you really should be doing is adding to your notes that you took on the live session or the streamed session. So you should have your notes that you have from those sessions, and you can add more to those notes. So there should be several pages of notes that are going to be turned in when it's time to turn those notes in. If you're there on the one day and you turn the notes in on that day, then you should add some more, and you can add those notes from the lessons to the Dropbox so I can see you've done the notes from the lessons like you were being asked to do. That's usually going to take you between 20 and 30 minutes to do if you're doing this in an appropriate fashion. If you need to make sure you're not just clicking through each slide, but actually doing what the slide's asking you to do using the student guide that's available for you in the lesson. Also, you need to complete the bookwork or worksheet and check and fix your answers. That's going to take you another 25, maybe 30 minutes, depending upon who you are. But you need to also check your answers, and those answers can be found under unit resources. Okay. In the case of Algebra 1 and integrated math. Okay, the calculus group has worksheets, and they'll find their answers there in those sections as they go. And then you're going to take a quiz, and that quiz should take you about 10 minutes. It shouldn't take you much longer than that, if even that. Okay, but you will need to be taking that time with the course as well if you want to be successful. So, most important part of our class, you need to have a math notebook. You should be keeping everything in a math notebook. So get a notebook that's just for math. And what goes in your math notebook? You should have a section for your Cornell notes from the live sessions and from reading through the lessons. Okay. Again, I will check off the Cornell notes from the live sessions. And but if you are actually here in person, I'll check those off before you leave. Then you'll add to those as you read through the lessons. And I'll be checking to see that you're doing that as I check off the next week's session. And then you should have your completed student guides. Each lesson has a student guide that gives you problems that you're supposed to interact with the work and materials, and has places to answer questions and so on. So you should be doing those. That's part of your work. So that's the second section you should have in your notebook. And your homework work problems. Those are the problems that are actually from the book for Algebra 1 and Integrated Math. Integrated Math does not have a hardcover book. It has a soft cover book. Or actually the soft cover. It has it's actually within your course. It's electronic. So you'll need to be using that information. If you're not sure how to get there, we'll see how to get there in just a couple minutes. And Calculus has worksheets. So those worksheets and completed worksheets need to be in that homework section. And I should see that, again, you are checking your answers for those things, and you've checked your answers. It's always a good idea to check your work with a different color of some sort and make the corrections in a different color, so that's very obvious to you where you've made mistakes, and it's obvious to me that you are doing what you're being asked to do. And then there's the quiz problems. And so you should have a section for your quiz problems. You can print those off and have the whole entire quiz there, so you can look at those, see what you did wrong, fix them, ask questions about them, and so on. So your notebook basically is a one-stop shop for all your work examples and your work. I will be looking for that and be giving you a grade on that by the end of the semester to see how much you've got in there. So make sure you're keeping track of that. School math policies. Quiz test policy. This is something that's very important. I know it was talked about at orientation, but we're going to say it again. Quizzes and tests may only be taken one time. After you finish a quiz, you may click on the grade in the grade book and review the correct answers. This is a great way to study. So if you found you missed something, then go click on the grade book and find out what you missed, and see if you can figure out why you missed it and what you need to maybe get help with. There is a timer on the quizzes, and you can ignore it. You will not get kicked off if time runs out, as long as you are pressing save answers frequently. So make sure you're saving your answers as you go along. So bottom line is, I want you to be successful. I can see how long you've spent in every part of the classroom. Some of you have already heard me talk with you about this. So for example, lesson 1.02, quiz 1.02, course home, etc. The most successful students take their time and do one lesson per day. So success equals math and time, okay? Doing the math, business, and time. Now you can see, if I'm looking at this example down here, that where it says Unit 3, it's showing somebody who put an hour and 3 minutes into this. Unfortunately, they spent most of that time just taking the quizzes. They didn't spend the time doing the lessons. And so if this is the kind of thing that I'm seeing, then I know that you're going to be struggling with things. So I should see a lot of minutes listed for the lessons, like where it says 3.01 edition part 1. Instead of seeing 0 minutes, I should see about 25 to 30 minutes being put in there, working through some of the items and working through the course, and really taking the time to look at the definitions of vocabulary words, trying the problems and not just clicking through things. Because if you're just clicking through, then you're not really learning how to do it. You need to interact with yourself and try it yourself in order to be able to learn it and make sense of it. It doesn't automatically come to you by just clicking through and looking at the slides. So it's really, that's kind of an important piece of what you need to be doing. Now, what do you need to do each day? Well, again, like I said earlier, you need to be checking your announcements. You'll see these announcements on your screen when you go into your course. This is one from Mrs. Giesbrecht, the other math teacher here. And it shows there's weekly assignments, and it tells what the week 1 or week 2. There's there's links to recordings, there's welcomes, there's all sorts of different things you need to be taking care of. And so make sure you are reading those announcements, because they also will give you deadlines that are very important. If you miss a deadline, then you may not have your work counted in your grade, and I would hate to have you miss a deadline because you didn't look at the announcements. When you click on the weekly assignments in those announcements, there you'll have a list of assignments for the week. It goes through, it tells you what the unit is, what work you need to complete for that day, and when it's due, and there's what the graded activities for the day are, and then there's usually comments of some sort. There may be some comments about maybe a due date, some other type for something. If something was due, get assigned like a week ago, and it'll show when the due date is for that assignment or something along those lines. So you'll notice that there's we get very specific about what you should be doing, the work you should be doing each day, where it talks about reading the online session, making sure you're using the student guide, what pages you're supposed to work with and read, and which problems you're supposed to do from the offline work, which is like the workbook or the worksheet or that kind of thing. And those things need to be done, whether they're graded or not, because those are the things that help you be successful and figure out whether you understand the math or not. Okay. But also remember, ultimately they will be graded, because they're going to be included in your math notebook, which you'll be turning in at the end of the semester, and we'll be checking to see that you have all of the assignments and everything in that math notebook. So please make sure that you're doing them and you're getting them turned in and are put into the math notebook. So here's an example of what a lesson will look like. You click on the unit. Once you've clicked on the unit, then you'll have a list of a bunch of numbers with words next to it, and such as the one in yellow, it says 1.02 sets of numbers. When you click on 1.02 sets of numbers, you actually get the lesson that goes along with that. And this is the very first page you'll see with that, and you'll see what the goals of the lesson are. You'll see how many pages are in the lesson, and there's a place for lesson resources, and if you click there, that's one of the places that you can access your student guide, one of a couple places. So remember I said before, don't just go through and click through the slides and so on, and this is an example of one of those times when you don't want to do that. Just, you can click on there and you can say check, and it'll then eventually show you what the answers are, but that's not fair to you. We want to make sure you're being fair to you. So you need to actually have the student guide in order to do this problem, and you need to actually click on those items, those numbers, and slide them to the box where they belong. And so you actually need to try that and do that, and then check your answers when you're going through the process. Do not just click through the slides and say, okay, I see what they said there, but make sure you understand exactly how to do it and what you're supposed to do. So if you get stuck that way, don't understand something, then you know right away, and you can send an email, and you can ask a question right away with that. Here's another kind of thing where you need to do some work. It's giving you actually some definitions and giving you some examples. These are kinds of things that you would want to add to your notes that you've taken already from the live sessions, and include in those notes. And there's 3 slides with this, as you can see, where it says 1 of 3, and there's a place to click next at the bottom of the box where it says types of sets. important to make sure that you are actually processing through each of those things before you click to the next slide. Here's another one where there's a video that's showing, and there's closed caption on it where it says CC in the bottom left-hand corner. And so if you need to be able to read it and also hear it at the same time, you can click on that. You also then can click the triangle button where it says click play to begin, and you actually play through the slide, and then the next where it says 1 of 11, it says click next. You're going to click that, and there should be like another little short video of some sort, or some sort of information, so that you learn more about whatever the topic is that is up for that point in time. So you need to make sure you go through all those and don't just click through them quickly, but actually listen and take some notes on those things. Here's another one where you can see a picture. There's a little video type thing next to the real numbers. You can click on the item next to the real number piece here. You can then click on, there's some little places to click in the screen as well. And there's some things that are reminders that down at the bottom that you can check on as well. So those are all things you should be really looking at, and again, interacting and doing what's asked of you through either the student guide or through the actual information on the screen. Now at the end of each session, there's next to the last page, usually on each session, is a list of the pages of work you're supposed to do. That's with the exception of calculus. Calculus has theirs come up throughout the whole lesson, because they're worksheets that come up at specific places. So, but for Algebra 1 and Algebra Integrated 1, then it's going to say now go offline to learn more about things like sets of numbers and to practice your skills, whatever the topic is. And it tells you specifically which pages to read in the reference guide. It tells you which problems to complete on which pages. There's an optional piece there, which if you need more practice, then you can do that. Notice they gave you the odd number of pages because those are the answers. Those have answers. And then there's this extension if you need some more practice as well. And then there typically will also say check your work, and make sure you check your answers. And after that situation, they're going to have a quiz. And usually the next page after this tells you the quiz. So make sure that you're doing that. You'll also see that there's a section where it says sometime within the course where it talks about the student guide, that you can access the student guide. So here's a third place where you can access the student guide, and the first place is it's the very first thing under lesson resources, and the second page is another place where you can access it usually. So what about a book? We talked about a book and having to do the book work with the book offline. Now our Algebra 1 students should have received a book. If you haven't, please let me know. And we'll make sure you have one that you can access temporarily, at least until you get yours. But you all have the book, and you don't have to have a hard copy of the book. It's in your course, and you'll see this list where it talks about course home. And if you go down, you can see where that arrow is pointing, that blue arrow is pointing, and it says a reference guide and problem sets. That is your textbook. So our integrated math students will find their textbook there, since they don't have a hard copy, but it looks like the hard copy book. And our Algebra 1 students can access their book there as well. So if you take your computer someplace, since you're gone for a couple days, and you're working on your work, maybe you're visiting grandma or grandpa, and you're trying to do your work there, and you forgot your book at home, it's okay, because the book is right there with your computer and online. Okay. Next thing, unit close dates. It says it's important to stay on top of your work. Work for a given unit will be accepted up through 1 week past the test for that unit. After that date, the unit will close and become locked. And it's going to do these things automatically. It's all scheduled in, and it's all going to happen automatically. So if you don't take care of things before those times, and you will receive deadline dates in the announcements of these, It's also listed on your calendar that you have. That's listed. It's also listed in the very first part. Remember, you can see calendar. If you go up from the reference guide to the very top, right under syllabus, that it says calendar, and that's the calendar for the whole year. So that also lists all the deadlines for the whole year, plus you'll get reminders. And if you sign up for Remind, as per the directions in the course and the announcements and so on, then you will also get another reminder. So if you're somebody who likes to procrastinate and needs knows that they need a lot more reminders, that's a good place to go, because you'll get a couple extra reminders that you won't get through the course. So here's the example of, let's say unit test is on 1/20 or January 20th. The unit 1 work will be accepted through January 27th and no later than that. So if you want to get credit for today's session, you should have been taking notes all along on this, and you should have had your essential questions written down so you could answer those. Then you're going to go to you're going to scan those items in to your computer, so you have a hard copy on your computer, and or you have an electronic copy on your computer, excuse me, and you're going to go to Dropbox in your session. You can see the Dropbox there with the blue arrow pointing to it, and you're going to click on Dropbox. And once you've clicked on Dropbox, you're going to see this page come up. And there's a place where it says Submit Assignment. So you're going to actually click on Submit Assignment. Once you've clicked on Submit Assignment, you're going to go, it's going to say Basket, and you're going to choose which assignment, which Dropbox you're going to put items into. And it's going to say week 1, probably say Cornell Notes week 1. And then you're going to click on, once you've clicked on that, then you're going to click on the attachments paperclip to upload your Cornell Notes. So the attachments paperclip is at the bottom, below the box where that information is written, right next to the words add and remove. And then once you've uploaded your Cornell Notes to that basket, you're going to click Submit Assignment, which you can see through the other blue arrow. And once you've done that, then you should be good to go, and I should have those assignments, and you should be ready to get those points. So again, to do your to-do list is to read the announcements inside your classroom, and then turn in your Cornell Notes to the week 1 math orientation Dropbox, and also see the calendar announcements for the start of coursework. Now, one thing that I did not put on here, and I put on the original thing, which is what kinds of things are acceptable for work, to turn in work to your homeroom teacher for math class. And the things that are acceptable for that are your Cornell Notes, complete quality Cornell Notes. Okay, again, I'm going to say that again, complete and quality Cornell Notes. And then your homework assignments, any homework assignments you have, complete and completed student guides, if they have things where you're supposed to be working through things. Sometimes they don't, they just have directions, and so those would not be acceptable. But ones where we have your work would be acceptable, and there's sufficient amount of your work. So any of those things are really acceptable for turning things in. But it was really not acceptable are quizzes. I know it does say, it will say that on the form that goes with that, the daily engagement form. But what we're seeing a lot of is students that are not giving us the complete quiz and expecting to get credit. So we really do not want to see quizzes and tests turned in for the work samples. And so because we're not getting the right format of those things, we're getting something that tells us what your score is, but we don't see your work. And we really want to see your good quality work on everything. And then we can always access the quizzes and tests anyhow. but we want to see what you've been doing each day. So again, let's go over what's okay. Your Cornell notes are okay. Your daily homework is okay. Student guides that are entirely turned in with all the parts that have student work on them. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, or projects, if there's any projects that are being assigned, would be also fine. Worksheets. Some of you will have worksheets. That's like your homework. Okay. So that should help answer one of the essential questions. And now we're back together again, and hopefully this made sense to you. If it doesn't, make sure you please send me a K-mail or make a quick phone call to contact me so you have information and get your questions answered and don't sit and get frustrated. So with that, we're going to end this. Please be sure to take the notes on this and turn those notes in as your work sample for this week with your daily engagement. That's what should be turned in, is a nice set of quality Cornell notes with your work sample, or as your work sample this week. There are a couple of quick short assignments that are kind of review or things that kind of help get us started that you will need to do also. And those would be acceptable to work as long as the homework is done with that, not just a quick one or two problems, but the complete thing showing work and showing that you've checked your work. All right, so if there's any questions, like I said, give me a call, and with that, we're going to finish up and stop our session. Have a great afternoon.